Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. We talk literature here, we talk comics, we talk media, scholarship, all of the things. And on this episode, I am delighted to be talking with someone who has, we've counted officially on IMDb, uh, at least 159, probably more than that, 159 credits in the world of film, television, video games, including Elder Scrolls and Star Wars and Lex and a number of projects. So delighted to be talking with performer, storyteller, dancer, even Ellen Dubin. Ellen, thank you for joining.
I'm delighted to be here. And who's counting at this point in time, right? You know, I just
Right?
I do my work, and I'm glad that you informed me because I didn't know that I had reached the 100 mark. So we have an anniversary or 150th anniversary of all
That's
the
right.
script.
I would have baked a cake, but by the time I mail it to you, it would not be as
Chocolate would have
uh,
melted, right?
exactly. It's the thought that counts, I suppose. So, congratulations on a wonderful career that way. And I'm a high school English teacher during the day. I taught college and middle school and other things, and will tell anyone that I could talk to about storytelling. I know that you have a history as a dancer and a performer in the theater, and so I'd love to start with that because I actually have lots of students right now that dance and dance competitively as well.
Well, without the story, no matter if you're a spoken word or not spoken word, which is what I started out with in the ballet, there's
Hmm.
always a story. And if you cannot connect that story to an audience or to a reader or whatever genre you're doing, the message does not transmit. It's not clear. The relationships are not clear. So, as a performer, and I've done, what's interesting when you just introduced me, I realized I've done almost every genre except a stunt woman.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the storytelling, the Shakespeare quote, the play's the thing, whether it's a play or words, if you don't and your podcast is called Words and Images, the first two words. So that really enticed me to want to talk to you because we have to, with our words or without our words, with our balletic or modern dance or contemporary dance or tap dance, we have to convey the story and the
Hmm.
images. So the audience should be able to picture, especially on a stage where there is no forest, there's no castle, there's no kitchen sink. Some plays are sometimes very minimal, and you'll create like an airplane with just some chairs, like in Come From Away, for example. And those images have to be in the audience's head just by the way you move, just by what you create in your imagination. So if you
Hmm.
do not have the story, that foundation, the house is going to fall. Just doesn't
Yeah.
work. True.
Yeah. True. Very true. Absolutely. That idea of conveying something across to an audience, it carries across form, right? Whatever kind of story you're telling, it's about getting whatever is part of the human experience and transmitting it in some way.
Exactly. And that's how a great performer, whatever genre they're doing, gets an audience to feel, whether they're laughing, whether they're crying, whether they're going, I've been through that. I've done
Hmm.
this. And that is the beauty to me. One of the reasons, people say, are you doing this for the money? And I'm going, and I want your listeners to know this, that if you are going into the performing arts for the money, you need to find another career.
Yeah.
Because it's, yes, it's wonderful to make money and have some good paying jobs. But to be honest with you, and don't let my agents hear this, I would do most of the jobs that I have done, I would do for free because you have to love it so passionately. And I
Hmm.
love connecting to my listeners when I'm doing voiceover, or my audience when I'm doing plays, or the audience that I don't see when they see a film or a television show and they send me an email, care of my website. I love when I can influence somebody or touch somebody or, do some comedy moment like in a Napoleon Dynamite, a movie that was a little movie that, like the little engine that could, seriously, who would have known?
Hmm.
Um, still getting emails about that. It is so rewarding that people will say, I laughed my head out of this. This was my big brother. This is my nerdy friend. This is blah, 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 and I'm like, this is why I do it. I like to
Yeah,
connect with an audience. That's
love
that's
that.
to me the heart and soul of why I do what I do.
Yeah, I love that. And uh, as a teacher, that's the heart and soul of what I try to get across as well. And of course, I'm curious, what were some of the early authors or performers? Who were some of the voices that connected with you and inspired you to take those steps?
Well, I've been in so many worlds. So in the ballet world, I used to watch all kinds of ballet movies and go to a lot. My mother took me to the Nutcracker when I was a little girl. So I think that started my love of the stage because I was very shy. And so, but when I was on stage, I came to life. If somehow or other, that distance with not being like some people get stage fright. I came
Hmm.
alive on stage, and in person I wasn't. So I would watch, ballet companies from New York. I'm from Canada originally, from Canada, from Europe, all over the world, and I loved Baryshnikov and Nureyev. I'm of that age group, and then a lot of the New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey Dance Company. I mean, some incredible dancers. And nowadays, what I appreciate about some of your students who are dancers and do competitions is the competition is pretty fierce, but it's also interesting that the genres are people can do a lot more. Like when I was doing ballet and I was with more classical company, it's pretty uh, focused and rigid in terms of like the teacher didn't want me to tap, didn't want me to do a contemporary. So nowadays, dancers have to your dancers probably in your classrooms have to do all kinds of different genres within the dance world. They have to be sort of not only a triple threat, I would say like is there C-set threat or is like a sixth
Hmm.
threat, whatever. But so I would watch all kinds of dance companies and then I would watch old movies. I still I obviously know all the actors now, and the Robert De Niro's and the Kate Blanchetts, but I also like to go back and the Jimmy Stewarts and the
Yeah.
Barbara Stanwicks and the tough chicks and the repartee between like a Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell and those kind of. I think it's very important to your listeners that whatever career they want to go into, if they stay in the performing arts, and even if they don't, it's always good to go back and watch what goes before you because it sets a
Hmm.
precedent and to watch the Gene Kellys in the world of dance, or the Fred Astaire's, or the Nicholas brothers. I mean, it's really good to watch the history, and it helps your acting career, or your dance career, or your singing career, or if you're an artist, or if you're a writer, or a choreographer, or a teacher, or whatever. The more knowledge I have as a human being, because we are human beings first, and people who are in the performing arts forget that they think I'm
Hmm.
an actor,
Hmm.
I'm a dancer, I'm a singer. If you're not a human being first and have a bunch of different interests, your work will not be as good. It will
Yeah.
be about, I need to be famous. I need to be on TikTok. I need to be on Instagram. I need to prove something. If you're trying to prove something in any job, in your work, it's a detriment to your talent and it's a detriment to, we go back to what we started with, that connection to
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
audience. And so it's really important to research the people that came before you, the stand-up comics. I watched I
Yeah.
grew up, my dad loved comedy. I watched old comics like the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges and cartoons, old, cartoons, Looney Tunes and all this background, especially later on for when I did animation, even though animation's mostly a different style now, but all this just contributes to what you are about as a performer. Human
Hmm.
performer, research. I do a lot of research in my work. If somebody says, I want it to be a Lauren Bacall flair, or I want it to be like Emma Stone, or so. I mean, I know who Emma Stone is, I know who Lauren Bacall is, but nowadays, everybody listening, you have a plethora of places to go and research. We used to go to the library, to the
Hmm.
library. And I still love libraries. I just like to
Same.
see books. I like to have a book in hand. But whether it's on your iPad or you do your Google research, there is no excuse for a performer before an audition or if you get the job not to research. Let's say I get a job and I have to be in the 1500s. I'm going to sit a different way than I do now,
Hmm.
sitting talking to you. I'm obviously not going to be wearing a t-shirt. There's going to be different protocols, different manners, different style of speech. And I like to be very accurate and detailed. And all that stuff just makes you a better performer. And the audiences, who are on the whole pretty sophisticated, will know, no, that's too modern. That's too
Hmm.
it doesn't work. So I tend to do, especially for period pieces, research the period, research the clothes, research the style, even though the wardrobe person also does that and we're part of a team. But I like to know, I kind of work from the inside out, but sometimes I work from the outside in too. And I like to know
Hmm.
what the exterior looks like, how they speak, how they relate, what a woman's place was at that time
Yeah.
in the 1960s and the 1950s, the 40s, the 30s. The 40s was kind of fun in terms of actresses, as I talked to you about. There's a lot of quick and fast banter and interesting, kind of talk that sort of what they call it transatlantic speech, with Katharine Hepburn, that kind of thing. Which
Hmm.
as an actress in voiceover, transatlantic comes up a lot. But I digress. Where was I? I'm so excited to talk to you. Where was I?
You were talking about the research that goes into a
Research.
role and
Yes.
bringing that
Yeah.
authenticity. Yeah.
It depends on the role because sometimes I will literally just dive. I will do my homework and learn my lines like they're part of me. And the trick in learning lines, if you're doing a film or television, is you have to make it seem like you just came to your mind in that moment. So you're
Hmm.
memorizing and you're memorizing and you're memorizing, and you have to make it so comfortable that you know it backwards and forwards. And if the set falls on top of you, which it has, or people are eating their lunch in front of you, or when you do a film, there's people all around you, and you're having an intimate scene with your brother talking about something important, and you have to not be distracted. And it's a very interesting, weird business when you think about it. All these people are there's crafts people there, and there's the director of photography, and there's a gaffer, and there's a lighting guy, and the sound guy, and they're all in front of you, and the makeup person's making sure that nothing is dripping or whatever. And you're like, the concert and the stage, having the stage work prepared me for my television work, because if stage work separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls, it's the creme de la creme, because
Hmm.
you only get one shot at it.
Yeah.
It's live. So that prepared me, because nowadays, yes, on television and film, you get more takes. Some directors like 20 takes, some like 10 takes. But having done stage work, it has prepared me to be spontaneous and fast, especially on low budget things when they want to get it done in one or two takes. So no matter
Hmm.
what happens, I can usually give them a performance. Yes, it may be, they may direct me onto another direction or try something else, but the stage prepares you to be disciplined to get that performance pretty much on the first take.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the words. It's the play's the thing. We go back to that. If you do Shakespeare, if you do, I did all kinds of stuff. I did drama, I did comedy, I did a lot of farce. Farce prepares you physically, and I love farce. But man,
Hmm.
if one moment is off and you come in that door, all those shows where the doors, everybody comes into the doors and slams the doors. It's like a musical. Literally, it's choreography, and my dance helped me with that. 1/4 of a second, you can screw up everybody's timing. The cues
Hmm.
for the cues, and jumping off the thing and hiding in the back. It's just they are demand a lot physically. And what everything, when I'm talking to you now, I'm realizing how much everything prepared me for everything that I've done. My dance background, my singing background, the the music of speech, the words, the preparing for cues without waiting. Because if an actor is waiting for their cue or waiting for the other person to talk, it looks like they're waiting for the other person to talk. So to
Hmm.
fill those moments is really interesting. And the stage teaches you how to listen because good actors know when to shut up and are very good listeners. Like with the voice world, which is my newest career, I tell my students, because I teach video game acting, that
Hmm.
silence is golden. What do you mean? I
Hmm.
have to talk. I'm doing voices. But look at us now. I'm waiting. I'm seeing if you have a comment. Sometimes we'll
Hmm.
overlap, but especially in video games now, which is so cinematic and so real, they want us talking kind of how you and I are talking now. And there's pauses. You don't necessarily have to say the next word. Maybe I'm not sure what I'm going to say, or I'm going to stutter a bit or repeat something. That's natural. Or else you sound
Yeah.
like an AI, which I've played a few of those as well. But
Hmm.
it's fascinating when I think about the research and the backgrounds. We go back to the research and languages. Like if I have a dialect for an audition, I have a coach, and I actually just had to do. I just finished a game where I played a. How do I play? Say this so it's very vague because you sign all these NDAs. I played a
Right.
German cult leader and very religious cult leader, and so I had done German before, but my coach, I wanted to perfect it because it's been a while. If you don't, you don't use it, you lose it. So he coached me on that,
Hmm.
and I just had an audition where I went back and reviewed Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. Welsh is tricky, so we did a little of that. So I'm always learning new things for auditions and for the job. I would hope that he could at least be on set, or else I would have a tape. I would tape it and put it on my phone and listen before I went in. Because what
Hmm.
happens when you're on set and you've learned a new accent, you get caught up in the moment, and a lot of times you'll lose it. So, and
Yeah.
I've seen a few of my shows, and I go, "Oh, that upper crust British, I missed it there," but the moment was good. So it's a balance. The research is very interesting, and it really depends on the project, but the accents have to be exact. And something for your listeners, if they ever have to do an accent, and they have to be able to do it as if they're obviously from that country, but also to be able to ad lib past the actual lines on a piece of paper on the script. So, if I've
Hmm.
got something and I'm speaking with a British accent, and the last line is, I love you so much. And that's the last thing. And maybe I want to go, I really do. You have to be able to ad lib just in case the director wants more, and then they will cut. So and I would go to restaurants. That's what I would do. Like I had to do a Hungarian accent for a show, so I went to a Hungarian accent and said, which is the Hungarian waitress here? Oh, we're all Hungarian. So she comes and I talk to her and I order, and she goes, "You're not Hungarian." I went, "I'll go back, reset." So, and I used to phone operators from different countries
Oh wow. Yeah.
and ask them, "What hotel is this in Switzerland?" And I write down little things because real people. I mean, yes, there's the dialect coaches online that are very well known, but I like when I'm playing a real mother or a real person to speak to the real thing because so those are my research tips and tricks for some of your
Yeah.
audience members. Yeah, kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, I love the just the level of thought and learning, but also refreshing because,
Always.
uh, yeah, if something goes away, you have to bring it back for a particular part, a particular role.
It's a muscle, If I could lift 10 pounds and I haven't lifted 10 pounds in 2 years, I'm not going to start with the 10 pounds. I might start with the 2 pounds. And same with an accent, or same with a skill. Don't lie if you can't ride a horse. Not that I ever did that. And don't lie if you can't skydive. No, I didn't do that one. But there's a few, I did a show. I did an audition. It wasn't a show. I actually didn't book it because I injured myself. It was a show based on P.T. Barnum. It's a musical on the famous circus entrepreneur, P.T. Barnum. And we went around the room. We did our singing, we did our dancing. This is when I was a triple threat. And he said, "Okay, who around the room has specialty acts in a circus?" So one guy goes, "I eat fire. Let me see it." One guy says, "I can do juggling. I'm a clown." "Ellen, what do you do?" "I'm a contortionist, like Cirque du Soleil." "Okay, let's see it." Well, I was young, really young, younger than I am now. And I went, "Okay," doing the splits and like I'm making it up, making this routine up, and there's a piano player just playing, and my leg goes into the split. And I could do the splits because from dance, but I didn't warm up. I hadn't danced in a while, and my leg went. You could hear the click, click, click. He said, "This is fantastic. So good to know." Okay, so come back in 4 days, everybody. You, Ellen, you come back, do that. And he left the room, and I could not stand up. I had literally ripped.
Goodness.
Yeah. So I never made the call back, and I never made the show. And I saw the artistic director of this particular theater company years later. He goes, "I'll never forget your audition." And I said, "I literally busted my ass for your show." And I wish him a Merry Christmas every year. I send him a Christmas, and I put a little buttocks there, and I go, "Busted my ass." And so now I can laugh about it. But man, that was, the stuff we used to do. And this, I literally would go above. I'll put it in a more succinct, nicer way. I literally would go above and beyond to do auditions that were unique and interesting and still true to myself, which is what you have to do to book work that is valuable and sets you, worlds apart from other people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Words, images, and worlds. Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, truly, truly, truly. I have been captured by words and images and the way they work together, being somebody that grew up with books and film. And I'm wondering when your image is on the screen, thinking about productions where you play multiple parts. If there are multiple roles that exist in the same world, how do you manage some of those differences creatively?
Are you saying if I played different parts in the same show, or doing
Hmm.
stuff in repertory where I'll do something in the morning, in the daytime, and a different show at night, which could actually apply to both? So
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the theater first, because that is where I learned to do things in repertory. And for people who don't know what repertory means in the theater, it means that a company is hired, a group of actors, and these same actors play different parts. So, in repertory. So, a couple of days in a matinee, I will do the mousetrap, and I'll play a very repressed character. And then at night, I'll be playing this sort of wild, crazy character with a Cockney accent. So, and they're completely the opposite. So, what I
Hmm.
do for something like that is I have notes on each of the characters, and what I do in my dressing room. Now, every actor works differently, but this is my go-to. I will put some adjectives, for example, severe, stick up, stick up the, um,
Hmm.
very shy around people, and my mask to be that person is to be very loud and authoritative. So I put that there. Next, the other character is doesn't care what people think, very physical, very touchy feely. So these are two very opposite women. One whose
Hmm.
body language is extremely rigid and severe, the other one is like flailing all over the place, touching people. So just some adjectives help me get into it. And the rehearsals really help. But has it ever overlapped? Sometimes an accent will come, like I was doing a New York character in a video game. And I went in to do another video game. I'm working on three right now. And this was the German character I just played. And he goes, "Are you from the Bronx in New York?" I went, "No, I'm from Toronto, Canada." And he goes, "You sound very New York." And I went, "Oh." just played this New York character. So I went, "Nope, nope, nope." And what they will do when you do a voicing and you play multiple characters, which you sometimes do in animation or video games, is they have a record.
Hmm.
Thank goodness for the engineers. They'll play you a little bit of what you did in the past, or they'll play you if it's your first session, your audition, because you booked it off of that generally. And then you just sort of duplicate and riff from there and go off of that. Trying to think on film and tell. In Lex, I played
Hmm.
four different characters. One would die, and then I'd be reincarnated. Thank you, Paul Donovan, the most brilliant producer I've ever worked with, one of the most brilliant, because the character was so popular. But each character had uh, qualities of the original character. So again,
Hmm.
no holds barred, aggressive, comedic, over the top character who moved like a Mack truck. So I would use, there's a case of using my dancer background, and instead of a very lyrical move, I would use my body kind of very rigidly, but a lot of stomping around and just very aggressive mover. And so
Hmm.
dance helped me with that character. But then I would play a queen and I don't know if you've ever seen the show. It's absolutely insane. One of the most wackiest, wildest shows I've ever done. And I had no body, so I was this bobbing head with this sort of big headdress that looked like Snow White's evil queen with these big baubles on it. And then I played the Pope.
Hmm.
So they were all very different physically. And I find, thank goodness for costumes, because the costumes also inform you how which role you're going to play, or the
Hmm.
voice, or the image on the screen, what the audience will see also helps. So physically, visually, sound like, um, and the director will make sure you're on the right track. Kind of a good teamwork.
Yeah, yeah. A collaboration.
Correct. Correct. Well,
Yeah.
if you're not a collaborator, you shouldn't be working either, because there's so many parts to a
Hmm.
performance, and again, without the writer, and the writer is sadly one of the lowest on the totem pole. I mean, I'm in Los Angeles right now, and I belong to a beautiful writers group online on Zoom, and I listen to these people and I go, without them, we would be nowhere. And they're the most
Hmm.
underappreciated. Actors are higher up. Writers, sadly, at the bottom, and I think they should be at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Those words that you were talking about.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not a mime. I appreciate mime, and I took mime. But if we're going to, mime is very valuable. Everybody, it gives you a sense of space. But yeah, you cannot function. You cannot send a message or create relationships without the words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about that hierarchy, I was going to ask, being a woman in the industry, anything that you'd like to say about the importance of women in media and women as storytellers?
Going back to my career in the sci-fi world, I have to tell you that this is going to answer your question in a weird way, but it's going to make sense. Um, I never watched sci-fi. I didn't care about sci-fi. I didn't grow up with sci-fi. I didn't grow up with comics, and I now love all that stuff truly, madly, deeply. But
Mhm.
when the rules for women came about for sci-fi, I was getting tired of just being the girlfriend that looked nice in the dress, or the sexual object, or the didn't have much to do, and just sort of be the, like, if it was a pas de deux in ballet. And it's funny because the man usually features the woman. I would have been the opposite, featuring the man, and there's nothing wrong with it. But each role. So when sci-fi auditions came about, friends were saying, "Look at, read it," and I was like, "This is interesting." They take unique-looking people, the theater, the voice, the physicality, and the parts for women were great, are great. And
Mhm.
that's when I started to realize that we can have a voice, We can make an imprint. We can make our mark. I mean, I just looked at the statistics. It's something like 20, I think it was like 45%. Last year was a pretty good year for principal performers. 42% of protagonists were female in movies, females, which is huge compared to the year before, 20 something, and then the year before, 12%. So we are making some headway. And what I would say to women and men and everybody actually, it doesn't matter what gender you identify as, creed, race, pink, yellow, tall, short, round, square, you have to follow your voice, your,
Hmm.
and I think it's getting better because there's a lot more unique. Not everybody's a cookie cutter anymore. Women, men. I mean, I'm seeing some great shows, streaming shows. I'm seeing some incredible dancers, incredible singers that don't fit the mold, don't fit the mold. Everything that people tell you in school, don't be funny, don't do this, don't look like this, um, don't be such a tomboy, don't do this, are the things that are going to make you not famous, but make you stand out because you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to go into the acting field. You can be a doctor, lawyer, a teacher, a tailor, whatever, in construction. Because what ends up happening when you're beginning, especially as a woman, you censor yourself. You censor that you, because this is a word I kind of hate, and I use it already, strong. I love strong
Hmm.
female parts. Why can't it just be women's parts, men's
Hmm.
parts? Because we started to get into that because, as I said earlier, we were sort of just the object. We were just that window dressing. And nowadays, I'm starting to see that female protagonists are carrying shows. There's a lot of shows that are female centric. So, to your audience out there, do not even think about female, male. Just think about, is it a good part? Is it something that I can bring to the table? Because there are a lot more opportunities now. Unfortunately, there's still only 12% of cinematographers that are working in 250 films, in the top 250 films. I did some research because I was curious. I have never had a female director of photography. I've had photographers on set, I've had female producers, I've had female directors, and actually my first three women in video games, three directors in video games were females, which is kind of cool. And something,
Hmm.
and actually in the last, no, one was a man. The last two before that were wonderful female directors. So I'm seeing in the voice world some very prolific women making their mark in that world. Don't be afraid and don't limit yourself.
I'm curious about, you mentioned science fiction and being part of that world and gaming. I'm curious about what that's been like. I was not aware that you taught voice acting in the world of video gaming, so I'd love to hear more about that. And then I also always like to give folks the chance to share about where people can find their work. So anything that you'd like to mention in that world of what's next and where we can find out more. That might have been a 3 or 4 part question, actually,
Okay.
come to think of
Who's
it.
counting? It's like I didn't count my credits on IMDb, so there you go.
There you go. There you go. 159 at present.
Oh, okay. I'm writing it down. Okay, so what was first again? Let me just think.
Yeah, being part of video games and science fiction fandom.
Well, the voice world came about kind of by accident. I had an interview at a commercial agency in Los Angeles, and this woman said, you have a very strong voice, and we have a voice department next door. I want you to go meet them. And they were happened to be a fan of Lex, and I didn't have a demo at the time, so I think this joke got me in. I said, "Why don't you watch my demo reel and close your eyes?" So they could,
Nice, nice.
my video, my because I had all kinds of a drama reel and a comedy reel and a detective reel, and so he said I know your work you're in, but he said that is one of the funniest lines we've ever heard. So, anyway, so the video game world, I don't play video games. And it's one of the few things, because I research everything. I've actually played a few, but I hadn't beforehand. But I can
Mhm.
definitely appreciate the enormity, is that the word? Of the video game world. Yeah, the enormousness, the bigness. And
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm an English major. I have a degree in English literature. I should know that. But anyway, so what I love about the video game world is two major things. The women's parts are great, actually, three. The arc, the story arc, the emotional arc. I have had better parts on the whole in video games than I have, not so much on stage, but on camera. The
Mhm.
and I love flying by the seat of my pants. All my background on stage, again, has trained me because with the video game more than ever, you do not get it till you get in the room. So it's either the old fashioned way where the pages are on a music stand, or you're reading off a teleprompter, excuse me, and you're going from one line to the next. And it's not always in sync. So it's not always act one, act two. It's okay, you're at the guillotine, your brother's about to be killed. Cry. Okay, you're now a merry wench in England and you're serving bar food. You're a lizard and the so literally you are going through each section. So you have to be able to conjure up emotions extremely quickly. And
Mhm.
that's what
Mhm.
the stage teaches you. And that's why I keep people always ask me, and I've taught video game acting, and I'll tell you how that came about in a minute. Nine, 100% people always put on a voice for me, even the best actors. Lo and behold, I am here to hold down the fort. Or, I want to tell you, and there's always a voice. So, and
Mhm.
I say, here's the trick with voice acting. Do not think about your voice. Let's think about your relationship to your brother. Let's think about the relationship to your mother. What do you want? All objective. What's your obstacle? And the more you have that and intentions and the more physicality you put into it, the physicality informs your voice. Your intentions inform your voice. Because if you put on the voice, if I'm putting on a voice, it's going to sound like too cartoony. And even in
Mhm.
cartoons lately, like the Pixar cartoons and DreamWorks, a lot of it is very real. And you're like, they tear at your heartstrings, there's
Mhm.
still the Looney Tunes where, I have friends who are Bugs Bunny, Jiminy Cricket, Sylvester that are still over the top, but still everything has to be rooted in reality. So that's one of the things I teach in video game acting, and I'm taking everybody down. And I tell them, this is like Law and Order. You're playing a detective in this video game. You're interrogating how many people in the room. What are you doing in this room? What is your objective? What is your obstacle? You're a lizard. Create the story of the lizard. Is the lizard looking for food? Is the lizard in a cave? You're not just going to make noises for the sake of it, or it's just again no connection, doesn't connect. So
Mhm.
I love teaching, and it came about because a girlfriend of mine who's a stage actress got a video game, and she knew I did a lot of video games. She said, "Can you coach me on this?" I said, "I don't coach." She said, "Can you just do it? Help me?" I said, "Sure." So I helped her. She booked the job. Her agent said, "This is a fantastic audition from the first audition you did," because she was acting. She was playing a queen, and too much stuff.
Mhm.
And do you like my song? And
Very nice.
and it was just overacting and there was no connection. I couldn't tell. See, in the voice world, because we don't see a set or we don't see the other actor, we work by ourselves. So much needs to be created, and I couldn't hear any of it. So the agent said, "What a difference! How did you get this?" Coach. So then people started to come to me,
Mhm.
and I've been doing it on Zoom now and then. I haven't had a lot of time, but it's so rewarding. As a teacher,
It's
when
definitely.
somebody gets something, or even if the distance between the change is literally 1 millisecond or 1 milli inch, I'm happy if there's progress. Everybody progresses differently. One man's progress
Mhm.
is a different man's progress, right?
Mhm.
So I'm as long as somebody does the work and tries, some people will be performers, some won't. A lot of the video game people are cosplayers at the conventions I go to because video games are so popular
Yeah.
and the characters are so popular and they dress up, which, oh, that's the third thing. There are no better fans than video game fans.
Yeah.
The best. They can recite everything. They dress up as your character or somebody else's. They wave at you. They say, "What's going to happen next? When you did this, was this a symbol of this? It was just an egg. No, no, no. It was a circle of life and the birth and death and in between. And okay, sure, you know." So I love voiceovers because I can be three, I can be 300, I can be a talking bear, which I am right now in a series. I can be a lizard, I can be a queen, I can be a blue collar plumber, I can be everything, which is great. Any age. I can be, I'm a very tall woman in real life. I can be a little person, I can be a little baby, everything.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Love
fun.
it. Love it.
It's the best. It's the
Yeah.
best.
Very cool. Very cool. Uh, well, at the risk of asking you to do more performances, you
You
mentioned
imagine.
conventions there.
Oh, I saw your interview with Peppermint Patty.
Yes. Uh-huh.
You heard
Uh-huh.
it, and she was amazing. And she does a lot of conventions. I don't do a lot of conventions, and because I've had a lot of other things going on. But sorry, I interrupted your question. You want to ask me about the conventions?
I was going to ask you about going to conventions. Yeah. Yeah. You were anticipating.
Yes, great minds. We're in sync. We're in sync,
That's right.
Jason. I think that there's no greater reward. Again, this isn't, well, you do get charged for your pictures, but I've actually sometimes give away pictures because I'm so excited about the fans coming up and saying, I saw you in Napoleon Dynamite, or I saw you in this show, and or they bring you like a little, I finally have a Funko Pop of Captain Phasma from Star Wars. So they bring you a little
Yeah.
box and I'm like, oh wow, a doll, it's like,
Yeah.
or they'll say, I saw you in this movie, and I go, oh, I forgot I did that movie, the IMDb thing. And
Hmm.
as she said, you see them coming to the table, and either they're in a cosplay outfit, either from another show or something in your show or something you definitely know, and you just or there's a little kid with his father, and it's for, as she said, for all ages. It's all inclusive. Everything goes. There's no judgment there. You can be what you want to be, and it's just the most rewarding. I just love it. I do San Diego Comic Con every year, and hopefully
Hmm.
I'll do it again this year. And it's kind of crazy because it's the biggest. It's the nuttiest. And the first time I went, I was like, my neck hurt. It's like, oh, look at this, Maleficent. Oh, look at this, Thumbelina. I'm going to use her. Oh, look at this, Charlie Brown. Oh, look at this, the Terminator. I mean, I was like, and the thought, like some of these players, the second they leave a convention, they're designing their next dress or their next outfit. It's robots with boxes, or some of them spend a lot of money on fabric or corsets or tiny little, the details are so impressive. And it's funny when somebody dresses up like you
Yeah.
and it's there's I got to tell you, there's no greater compliment. There's nothing better. You'd have to be an idiot not to appreciate the fans, because without the audience, without your fans, without your readers, without your listeners, what's the point?
True.
Like I said, I really want to touch people, make them laugh, and I just like hug these people, and for joy that they've taken the time. I appreciate that they've taken the time, even if it's not my costume, because generally a lot of times it isn't. There was a few Captain Phasmas last year, which made me happy, but
Hmm.
it's just, I think it's the greatest feeling. It's going to
Yeah.
make me cry. It's just the best.
Yeah. If a tree falls in the woods, there has to be someone around to hear it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So if I'm a listener and I want to find out more about your work, if I want to know what's next that's not under NDA, any of those spaces, places, or glimpses that you might want to offer.
Well, the tricky part for me right now is we are in the middle of a video game strike. And there are two credits. I cannot say them out loud, but if people go to my IMDb, two huge games just came out. And if they
Yeah,
go to IMDb, they can see them and listen to them. They are really magnificent, beautiful, beautiful games that I'm very proud of. But because I'm a uh, supportive, loving Screen Actors Guild member, I will not cross the picket line and publicize those games. So that's something
absolutely.
we have to look at. There is something that I can publicize, and I don't know the name, but again on IMDb, I do a lot of foreign dubbing, which is a new thing I've been starting to do, where there's a Netflix show from Spain or Italy or Sweden or Germany, and a lot of people don't like to watch. I like them, but a lot of people do not like to watch subtitled shows.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's a big market for voice actors now to do the parts with an American accent. So
Nice.
I've got one that's just come out. It's a comedy. It's about some cheese factory in is it Germany or something, but it's really funny and it's in the credits and I can't remember the name. I just found out it came out. So it's probably credit 159, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a kids series. So if anybody has any children running on PBS Kids called Eleanor Wonders Why. It's kind of 6 to 10, and I play a farmer, a little bear, farmer bear. Hey, children, how are you? And I love it because
Mm-hmm.
it teaches kids about how trees grow, maple syrup, all kinds of interesting things about gravity without being a condescending kids show. It's very well written. And
Cool.
there's a few other things that I still can't talk about. But if they go to ellendubin.com, my lovely web lady will post stuff. And I also have on IMDb an email address, and I answer every single person's question, whether it's something about how to get started in the business or some advice about an audition, whatever, or a play, it's Jiggerata 100, which was the name of my first sci-fi character in Lex Jiggerata. So I got to write it myself. Jiggerota 100 at AOL.com. Jiggerata 100 at AOL.com. I answer every single email. And I'm happy to hear from if any of your students have any questions or somebody needs something, I respond.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kindness. I appreciate what you said about fandom, and I appreciate the range as well, the experience as well as the credits and just the wide variety of what you've worked on and what you've done. And thank you so much for the time as well.
Jason, thank you so much for caring and thank you for bringing stuff to the world as a teacher. You are the unsung heroes of the world. Truly. Thank you.
I will reciprocate that to teachers out there that are listening as well. And glad to have you back anytime as there are projects that you're working on. And such a delight to talk with you.
Thanks you again. Take care, everybody. Be yourselves and be kind to one another.